Okay, so good morning again. So we continue our classes on Introduction to Evaluation. And as I told you on our Facebook group, that today we will talk about purposes for evaluation. We have already spoken about purposes for evaluation in the first chapter and during the first, second class, third class, okay? But today we'll try to focus a little bit more on it, okay, and a bit of details, and see how each type of purpose has got its own means of work, its own ways of doing evaluation, okay? Concerning the outline for today's lecture, so we will talk about what are these general evaluation purposes. And these are as follows. First purpose is accountability. We can do evaluation for curriculum development and improvement and betterment. We can also do evaluation for self-development, and here we are talking about the teachers and other language teaching professionals, which is something needs to go on all the time for teachers. Also, we can talk about evaluation of materials, okay, and this is one of the also frequent aspects of evaluation. Also, we talk about evaluation and we focus particularly on how evaluation can be done with regard to teachers. And, of course, when we talk about teachers, teaching. Okay? And finally, we try just to mention, okay, a few things about evaluating with regard to learner outcomes. I'm not going to go into the details of this section as it is on your chapter, but you're going to have it in detail, of course, with the Prof. Fatihi, since that's the area where you talk about assessment. Because this one, it talks about evaluation in terms of assessment and testing. Okay, how to do testing and the ways, etc. Okay, I will not go in details, but to let you read it, and then you will do it with the Prof. Fatihi in more detail. Now, the first types of purposes we're going to talk about are evaluation for purposes of accountability. You know, we have already mentioned this last lecture. Accountability, it means the validity or the efficiency, how efficient, how effective a program has been, a course has been, a teacher has been. Okay, we'll also talk about curriculum development and betterment, and self-development, teachers and other language teaching professionals. So the first one, which is related to accountability, I'm going to start with this task as it is taken from your textbook. Okay? You can find it in your textbook if you want to read from your textbook. So read the following statements. So please remember these, okay? Remember these. These are the three types of purposes for evaluation which we cover in this first part of the lecture. There is accountability, you know what it means. Curriculum development, that is to say you do evaluation in order to improve, develop curriculum. Or in order to help teachers self-develop, okay, for self-development of the teachers. Okay, so these are the three types of purposes we focus on this part of the lecture. Now, concerning the task, you are going to read these statements, okay, as you have them in your book, and then you try to, which of the three purposes for evaluation given above, accountability, curriculum, etc., can you identify? Match. In other words, match each statement with the appropriate purpose of evaluation as mentioned in here, okay? Accountability, curriculum development, and self-development for the teachers, ELT teaching professional. Okay, take some time. You have that on your book. If you want to avoid reading from the screen here. Did we get it? Number 4, you can finish it. Right. Okay, the other is on the other pages. But you can just get it from the beginning of this number. So you have accountability, and then you have curriculum development, and then you have 3 purposes left. Okay? I think it's fine. So, what do you think about the first one? The standards of language teaching will be evaluated by comparing results from the end of the year examinations. Yes?
Yes, I think that the first purpose goes with the curriculum development.
Yeah.
No.
What do you think?
Accountability. Good.
Okay, accountability. Any other reason?
I think it's curriculum development.
Curriculum development.
Because it's
So as I talked about standards,
standards.
standards are usually defined at the level of the
The standards of language teaching in schools will be evaluated by comparing results from the end of the year examinations. Why do you say accountability? Yes?
To know whether the program or the standards have been implemented are efficient.
Or effective. You remember the story I gave you last time when I talked about the school that changed from an approach, communicative approach to, or no, from structural approach to communicative approach to language teaching? What they did in order to see, okay, if which one was efficient, which one was effective or not, they did the evaluation in terms of assessment, okay? Okay, at the end of the year, yes, I am giving chance. At the end of the year, they evaluated or they saw the results of the students, the outcomes, and they said, yeah, the outcomes of the students when we adopted the communicative approach are better, which means that the communicative approach is better. Okay? So in this regard, we can say that accountability, this is the way how it is always tested, how it is always evaluated. Okay? If you want to say if standards or teaching has been efficient, effective, you just go at the end and then you see the results of the students, the outcomes, the achievements, and then you compare and then you say, okay, we're going to see this following. Yes, Rama.
I think also it can be put into the curriculum development and betterment.
Yes.
Yes. Sometimes we use evaluation in order again to modify or
Yes.
to better a certain program.
Yes.
So I think also it can fall in the second category.
Yes. For example, in this one.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's possible. It's one of the ways of doing also curriculum development. Okay. But then, does this way of that is to say, comparing results from the end of year examinations really help you to know what has been okay, good, and what has not been good? Does it tell you any information in that regard?
Yes.
Does it tell you?
If you compare the results
Yes.
with the standards.
Yes. No, you are not comparing the standards here. You are comparing only the results, the outcomes of the students in the standards. Okay? You are not talking about the standards, you are not describing the standards. You just, for example, tell that in this, when we adopted these standards, we have these scores from the students. And when we ask them to have other scores. That's all. So, which means that it's not enough. If you want to cover or to improve the curriculum development, as we're going to see later on, you need to go into other areas, into the teaching process, the learning process, the materials, and so on and so forth. In that way, you can find what has been wrong and what has been okay. You can keep what was good and change or modify what was wrong. Okay? But in this way, you don't know. You just tell this program is good, efficient, effective, or another one is wrong. Okay? So that's why it's more related to accountability. Okay? More related to accountability. Yes?
They're not comparing the standards themselves. But
No, just the results. The standards of language teaching in schools will be evaluated how? Via comparing the results of the students. Okay? The next one, our aim is to encourage teachers to look at, describe, and understand what happens in their classroom. In teaching vocabulary, for example, do they use visual aids wherever possible, present the vocabulary within a context, translate meanings into the learner's mother tongue, introduce a maximum of 12 new words in any one lesson? Do they allow learners to use their mother tongue? Okay, so what do you think? Yes or no?
The purpose here is self-development for teachers.
Yes. Self-development of the teachers, because we are talking about the teaching process. We focus on the teaching process, the teaching style, the teaching approaches, teaching methodology, teaching techniques and tips, okay? Strategies, right? So here the purpose is self-development, teachers' self-development. Next one, number 3, before we make suggestions about increasing the use of visual aids in the classroom, we need to gather information about what types teachers use at the moment and at what point in the lesson they are being used. Increase of usual visual aids. Curriculum development?
Yes.
Yes.
It will also be here accountability.
Accountability.
This is what the sense of materials are diffusing.
Before we make sure about increasing the use of, we need to gather about what type of teachers use. Now, in terms of accountability, before we go into self-development and curriculum, accountability. When we say accountability, we say efficient, effective. Now, how do you know here efficiency and effectiveness? Information. It's how do you know?
Before they make decisions about new materials to be used as visual aids,
How are they going to evaluate? Is it mentioned in here?
By gathering information about some types.
What types of visual aids teachers use?
Yeah.
But that's not related to efficiency. They just try to describe the teaching strategies. Okay?
To gather information about.
Yes, they don't tell you that this strategy, which strategies were good and others were not good. They just describe. Okay? So, yes, to tell you something, all the variables there, the purposes can be included somehow or another into purposes. We can talk about all of them, but something is more is clear, is more dominant. For example, here we can't really talk about accountability. Okay, as we are going to see later on, accountability usually you try to get the results of the students' outcomes, and that's how you can talk about efficiency. One of the ways. Okay? Now here what is left for us is two things. Self-development and curriculum development. In what ways, before we go to self-development, in what ways people who say curriculum development, in what ways do you think that this helps us in terms of improving the curriculum? When we talk about curriculum, we talk about textbook, okay, the material.
Yes.
We're not talking about the tools. There are two things you have to differentiate. Tools and the materials. Okay, the tools like whiteboard, data show, PC, pen, whatever. And then the materials is the handouts that you give them, the text, listening, audio, video, whatever materials. Okay? So, what do you think here? In what ways do you think here it helps you improve the curriculum? Yes, Naeem.
In terms of where visual aids are used in the lesson, so it can be increased by gathering.
But the curriculum, is it the same or is it going to change?
It's mainly it's going to be changed.
It depends.
After gathering the information, if you see that the majority of teachers rely on some particular visual aids, we can add it to
Of course, yeah. You can use, for example, you are familiar with the, okay, I see the point.
Okay, before they introduce this visual aids, we first gather information about the tools really were implemented and in what ways by teachers, and then they will make suggestions to improve
The tools.
Yes, to better
The tools.
teaching activities.
Yes, the tools. Yes?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I think it's curriculum development because first and foremost, it seeks to describe and depict what type of information and data should be used.
What type of information and data should be used? No, they don't talk about information and data here. They talk only about the tools. Visual aids. Look, we need to gather information about, information. It is there about what types teachers use at the moment. What do we mean by what type? What types of visual aids?
Well, it also it seeks to depict and describe the information itself.
Yeah, information about the tool. Okay, for example, it tells you using the data show or using the pictures,
Whiteboard.
or using cartoons on the whiteboard, drawing. These are tools. Okay. Yes.
According to what I see, I think that it's neither self-development nor curriculum development. I think that it's accountability. Because accountability is the validity and efficiency of what is evaluated. And then we're speaking about whether these visual aids are really valid and efficient in the classroom. And they gather information for what's the purpose? What's the purpose of this gathering of information? It's increasing the use of visual aids in the classroom. According to me, I think that it's accountability and not curriculum development per se. This is what I see.
Okay.
Yeah, of course, they want to increase the use of visual aids, but they are not seeking either they are efficient or not. They want to see where they are used and where.
How
They are
they are
able-
used.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Only
they are
description
able-
Yes.
Look,
But
let me repeat again. Okay, yes.
we have the goal here. In the first sentence, we have the goal of why information is being gathered. Why are they gathering information? It's to make suggestions about increasing the use of visual aids in the classroom. Whether they are going to increase it or not increase it.
Yes, before
This is the
being
goal.
suggested about increasing.
Yeah, but
This is the goal.
is that we are going to decide based on the information whether to increase the use of visual aids or not,
It's efficiency.
or to keep it static as it. So we're not going to increase. The goal is not to increase.
Depending on the level of information.
Yeah, and it's not curriculum development, because curriculum development speaks about the
It's
general
curriculum.
goals of the program. This is what we want our learners to be able to do by the end of the program. Visual aids, it's whether they are efficient in reaching these general goals of the curriculum development. If these visual aids are not really efficient, does it mean that they're going to change all the curriculum? I don't think so. They're just going to look for other ways to.
So definitely it's not curriculum. Definitely it's not curriculum. And as I said, again to summarize this, you can have all types of purposes there. But one is more predominant. So it's not curriculum because you have spoken about curriculum. It means objectives. It means it is very broad. Okay. But in terms of accountability again, there is no way of telling us visual aids were efficient or not efficient in here. There is no way. They are not evaluated. We don't evaluate the efficiency, effectiveness. Here, it is more related to teaching strategies. Because when you talk about visual aids, it's calmly and as innocently as possible. Okay? It is, when you talk about visual aids, we're talking about the techniques of teaching. We're talking about the teaching process. Okay? I use visual aids in my way. Another one uses visual in his own way, depending on the level again, some more, some less. It's a teaching strategy. It is a teaching technique. So it is more related to teacher, self-development. Okay? Not curriculum though. It is a bit of accountability, but not really accountability. Okay? Because one way of evaluating accountability, you do teaching, you finish, at the end of the teaching, you do assessment. And then you get the results, and then you compare. The results were good, that means the program was efficient, was okay? So that's now the last point, the textbook. Okay, I use is a structural one. The writing exercises may involve the manipulation of structure. I want to try. And then it goes. So here it is okay, talks about textbook, okay, talks about the curriculum and how he wants to change from a structural to maybe something different. Okay? So this is just a kind of making you aware of the issues related to these three types of evaluation, okay? Yes, there is number 5, okay, I know. Now, whether a program has been both concerning the first purpose, which is that of accountability. So what do you try to do? You try to see if whether the program has been both effective and efficient. It is not used, this type of evaluation for accountability is not used in any major way to improve. Bear this in mind, please, okay? It is not used in any major way to improve the functioning of the curriculum or classroom practice. This is another reason that can make us forget about number 3 there. We're talking about not, okay? Because it is not used for improving the functioning of the curriculum or the classroom practice. That's not the purpose of this kind of evaluation for accountability. Its main purpose is to see whether a program has been both effective and efficient. This is the main purpose, not to improve, not to, okay? It rather informs decisions as to whether something is to continue or to be discontinued. That is to say, something to be continued or a program, okay, or a course, okay, whether it should continue or it should stop. So these are some of the main reasons for this kind of evaluation related to accountability. So now you see the point, right? Okay, you see these points, okay? So in order to help, okay, better understand this issue of purpose for accountability, there's another task that you have, which is there in your book as well. But as I put it in here because it's so short, can you think of a situation where evaluation for accountability is necessary from your experience, either high school or middle school or university, some courses that you think they need to be evaluated for accountability? As an example. Mhm.
Can we talk about like private?
Private schools or public or whatever, in teaching in general, whatever.
When for the private school, the third person, like for dentist opportunity, they need this kind of evaluation for the accountability, so that the certificates can be approved by the government. So they do such kind of evaluation for their courses and.
Yes, okay, so here what I mean, not what is done, so that is done, okay, but what you think should be done for some courses. You think that something is not okay or something needs to be improved, or, okay, there are some negative things, and you think that there should be kind of evaluation for accountability for that course, yes?
Let's look, for example, public schools.
Mm-hmm.
Gene program.
Yes. Yes, very good.
He came and evaluated whether.
Yes, very good.
They evaluated last year the committee on education. They came to the computing course, and then they evaluated whether the teacher has used or has been using.
So they evaluate the teacher after the teachers have gone in the training.
Yeah.
They go and see the teachers doing what they have learned, and then they evaluate them. Let me make it clear again, okay? What I mean is, you think that there is some course, some program somewhere that needs to be evaluated for accountability. Now, I give you an example. Because of there is some kind of crisis circulating around the education in Morocco. There are a number of question marks at this time as well. Some people say it's a catastrophe, and so on and so on. So one of the things, here we have to see, to do this kind of evaluation. This is an example I'm telling you. And then I'm giving you a kind of general example. You can go into the details of this example, either in teaching English, okay, in high school or middle school, or in teaching English for the private sector, okay, in the primary schools, or something. Or at university, some courses you have been through, you have studied, okay, many courses at university. So, do you feel that there is some kind of program or course that needs to be evaluated for accountability?
Yes.
Yes, what example?
Like the word, a course.
A course or a program?
Where they teach public speaking. Sometimes they evaluate it through the format that's like writing.
Yes.
Which is not like accountable for the what it claims to measure.
Yes, because it's normally a oral competency or an oral skill.
Not a national.
Yes, not a written one. Yes. Yeah.
I remember in 2004, in schools, I don't remember if you remember, there was, the ministry sent or I requested the school and the delegations to organize forums. They called them at that time Monday Islah, in which all the schools meet together in councils and the teachers and administrators together for 2 days and do kind of workshops. So each workshop has to work on a specific topic related to the problems that are circulating in the Moroccan educational system, and they need to send their recommendations to the delegation, and again all the delegations need to compose or to write one report and send it to the ministry.
Yes.
So at that time, it spread all over Morocco, so it's called Montague Islah. So it's
It's a kind of evaluation for accountability, yes.
For accountability of the program.
Yes, okay. That's right. Coming back to the program, Genie program, for example, this program itself needs to be evaluated for accountability. Because the way it has been done and how it has been used and taught and so on, there are many question marks in there. So it needs to be evaluated for accountability, either to continue or to stop, okay? Because I know many teachers are complaining about this student program and so on. Yes.
There is a problem in Genie program. Now,
Yes.
now they have spent a lot of money on to equip rooms I think in all the schools of Morocco. The problem is that a minority of rooms of Genie centers are open to the students. Why? For the simple reason that there is no one to take care of the material there. So they need somebody official from the delegation to be there in the room of Genie program. So what's the solution? The director closes the Genie the
center.
room, and no one takes advantage of it.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes, so that's why it needs to be evaluated for accountability. Is it efficient or not efficient? Because many cases it's not efficient, it's not effective.
It's not even working.
It's not even working.
To
That's
see
one of
whether
the
it's efficient or
yes,
not.
yeah. That's why it needs to be evaluated itself. Okay, and so on and so forth. So this is just to show you that there could be any times some evaluation for accountability for some courses, for programs, whatever. Okay. To continue with accountability, they are usually carried out after an innovation has been running for some time. This is one way, context where accountability, evaluation for accountability is being used. That is to say, when a new program is launched, innovated, or a course, and then at the end of this innovation, there needs to be a kind of evaluation for accountability, okay? Or at the end of a project, Amal, okay? Or at the end of a project, okay? Known as, and this is known as, of course we have seen this before, summative evaluation. Also, it tends to involve testing, as we said before at the beginning, accountability, evaluation for accountability, for the purpose of accountability. It tends to involve testing and measurement and analysis of statistical significance of results, okay, obtained. Significance of results obtained. So there should be an assessment at the end of the students' outcomes, achievements, and then you get the marks, the scores, and then you do a statistical analysis to see where things are working or not working, and so on and so forth. Summative evaluations are limited by their focus on outcomes, again, to focus on this issue, at the end of an educational innovation. Now, the next point, which is that of evaluation for purposes of curriculum development. Curriculum development. Again, you have a task 21 on your textbook. So you try to do this task as well before we go on. You read this extract and you try to answer the questions in the bottom here. You see some questions. So this is an extract from a book by Harlan, 1973. How useful were the test results in this evaluation? What were their shortcomings? And why do you think teachers' reports are considered to be so valuable? Okay? So do you think that simply looking at the tests was some kind useful for this kind of evaluation here to improve the curriculum according to this extract? Do you think the tests simply relying on this was useful enough?
No, they're just parts.
They are just parts. According to this extract here, it says that they are just parts. Just give you part of the evaluation, which is that the outcomes. It focuses on the outcomes, right? And why do you think teachers' reports are considered to be so valuable? Because at the end, the author suggests that there should be a kind of movement, shift from just relying on the outcomes and the tests to other, teachers' reports and observations. Okay? Why they are so valuable? Why does he suggest that? Yes.
Because they are going to compensate for the shortcomings of this subject.
Okay, they are going to compensate for the shortcomings. What are the shortcomings of the tests first? As we said, yes?
This might not account for other variables that affect.
Yes, the materials, the teaching process, and so on and so forth. Okay? So that's why relying on the observations and a report, teacher's reports, etc., can help provide information about other variables in the teaching process. Okay? That's why we can gather information and data about which things can be kept or which can be improved concerning the curriculum. So the purpose of this task here is to show you how purposes of evaluation for purpose of accountability works and how evaluation for purpose of curriculum development works and how it is done. Okay? Now, it is the teacher in this kind of evaluation for curriculum development, it is the teacher rather than the tester or the evaluation expert who has most information about specific classroom context. Now, the evaluation expert or the tester doesn't know about what goes on in the classroom setting, right? He doesn't know, but the teacher knows. Okay, so that's why we need to focus on the teacher and what goes on in the classroom setting, the teaching practices, the learning practices, and gather data from there using reports, using observations, and so on and so forth. Evaluations intended to improve the curriculum will gather information from different people over a period of time. When we talk about people here, of course, we talk about teachers, parents as well, students as we're going to see later on. There isn't only one. The teacher is only one. But there are also the students, the parents, administration, and so on and so forth. So this one is referred to as formative evaluation. Okay, we have all this in that, but now we try to explain further. So formative evaluation is related to this purpose of curriculum development. They are ongoing, okay, and monitor developments by identifying the strengths and weaknesses of all aspects of teaching and learning. Formative evaluation is designed to provide information that may be used as the basis for future planning and action. You gather information, observation, reports, and so on. You gather information about the teaching practices. And then the purpose is to future planning and future action in relation to curriculum development. It is formative since it aims to strengthen and improve the curriculum. Okay, it is formative. The next, or the last one concerning these three types, so we have evaluation for purposes of teacher self-development. Formalizing and extending a teacher's knowledge about teaching and learning in classrooms. Okay, so teacher is never perfect, of course, as you know. It keeps going on, development and improving your style. It's a life, okay, objective. So that's why illuminative evaluation. This is referred to when we talk about evaluation for purpose of teacher self-development is referred to as illuminative evaluation. Illuminate, okay, to enlighten the teacher, to help the teacher develop, improve, because it involves raising the consciousness of teachers and other ELT practitioners, okay, to improve their skills. Okay, it is also developmental and, of course, formative. Another task to help you understand this, okay, this kind of purpose for teacher self-development. You have this task, number 22 again in your book. Okay. Think about what you do in a reading lesson. Use the following questions to guide you. Just to show you how this kind of evaluation is done. Okay, one of the ways how we do it is using a checklist. Okay, this is an example. Don't do both. Okay, just the first one is enough. Okay, fine. What is done with the text itself? Learners read silently. Teachers read other. Okay. Development, yes. Okay, because I was copying and pasting, so yeah. Development.
With the slide you have just
Before one, this one? Purpose of curriculum?
it's in the first line. There are other.
Yes, development, yes. Development. Thank you. Okay, stop. Are you crying or you want to do? No, when you have the tears, there are two reasons for having the tears, right?
Either sadness or happiness.
Either sadness
Or happiness.
maybe in this case I should say three reasons. When you are sad, when you are happy, or
We want to
you are sleeping. When you okay? When you hold your
Yes.
hand. Yeah. So this is a kind of okay checklist or guidelines for helping the teachers evaluate themselves to improve themselves, of course. Okay, for their self-development. For example, you have this one in relation to teaching reading. Okay, in teaching reading, so the teacher can answer these questions. And then, on the basis of the answers he gets for these questions, he can, of course, evaluate himself or herself, and of course, help himself develop, improve, better his skills. Okay. I don't go into number 2 because just to. Okay. So to continue with this one, they focus more on the process, as you can see from this task. Okay. For purposes of teacher self-development, we focus more on the process, not on the students' outcomes. Okay. And less on the products of teaching. That's the outcomes. On the products of teaching and learning. Teachers are involved in describing and better understanding their own teaching context, their own teaching style, their own teaching techniques, methodology, and so on. The purpose is to improve, of course, the teaching and learning processes. Then we can also talk about evaluation in this way, specific topic-related purposes for evaluation. You can have, if you remember, in the very first lecture, we talk about having different types of focus for evaluation. I don't remember now all those, but that's what they are talking about here, okay? We can do evaluation for specific kinds of topics, okay? Specific kinds of topics. And this is where action research takes place, right? Action research, you have a specific topic in mind, and then you want to eliminate yourself about it. So you try to do action research regarding that topic. So here we can have different types of topics in addition to what we have seen so far for evaluation. So evaluation is not restricted to testing of learners, okay? More than just the end product is important. And there are different conditions that may explain or contribute, that is to say, we should go beyond testing, we should go to the variables, the teaching, in order to understand evaluation or the teaching in general. Other information related to a range of different aspects of teaching and learning process should be included. So this is what we can include from all the explanations we have done so far. Now we move on to focus on materials. Okay? Now what do materials, before we go into evaluation of materials, what do materials mean for you? It's just to understand this. Do you refer exclusively to textbooks? Okay? Or do you include teachers' guides, teaching manuals, supplementary units, readers, audio, visual materials, etc.? Take some time, think about this. Do you make a distinction between materials designed specifically for first and second language teaching, and also between those targeted specifically for use in school and materials that are non-pedagogic but authentic? Do you include materials produced by the teachers and the learners? The purpose, of course, just to go quickly, of this task is to draw your attention to the different types of materials we can have. Okay? So all of them, they include different types of materials. Materials are all this. It can be this or the other. Okay?
And they can all be used in classroom.
Yeah, of course. They should be used in classroom. Okay? So that's the purpose of this task here, to help you refresh your memory concerning all types of materials we can have in the teaching practices. Okay? So they are all this. The role of materials within your teaching and learning context. What roles are they expected to play? What goal are they expected to achieve? Let's not move into this because we have to go. Okay. Okay. Now, because the purpose, so you know now the different types of materials. Now I want to move into, the evaluation of materials. How evaluation of materials is done. Thus, if you go to the literature, it's usually done via what is referred to as checklists. There are different checklists. There are some checklists that are very famous, and we're going to have a look at some of them here. And there are others who are not famous. Okay, so there are what we call checklists. So here we have an example. Also checklists, and we have to determine our criteria. Okay, when we talk about checklists, we talk about our criteria for evaluation. This is a kind of task that helps you draw your attention to the types of criteria for evaluating materials. So look at the following questions. You have here questions for evaluating suitable texts for EAP, English for Academic Purposes. So look at those. It's from Moore 1980. Are there any other criteria for text selection you should or would like to add? In what ways would questions like these be useful for you for evaluating materials in your context? So the first thing, look at those criteria mentioned in there. Are there any others you can add? And number two, how useful they are. Take some time. Yeah, no, I don't know why, because I plugged in this, maybe it didn't work. Maybe that is plugging forward. Yeah, it was not done well. Let's do it again. And usually when it is recording or editing movies or whatever, it consumes more battery time. And quickly back. Normally, if you don't do like heavy tasks like this, it takes like 4 or 5 hours. Maybe it's the whole day. You can work with the whole day. But if you are connected also on Wi-Fi or yes, or yeah, the depends on the tasks. But if you just use Word, PowerPoint, you know, navigate from time to time. And of course, like any other being in this world, by the time that so, what are the criteria we have here? So, purpose, is the purpose clearly defined? Type, does the type of exercise effectively and economically accomplish the purpose? Content, is the ratio of language given learner task economic? Are instructions to learners clear? Is it interesting? Is it a meaningful task? Is it challenging? Difficulty? Does it contain distraction? So these are some of the criteria which can be included in the checklist. So do you think, do you have any other? Yes?
Also be ethical,
Ethical? What do you mean by ethical?
like not containing offensive content.
Yes, ethical, that's right, yes, ethical. Also, in relation to this issue of ethical, we can talk about culture, specific sensitivity, of course, it should respect the culture. Does it respect the culture, the local culture? Yes, ethical. Yes. Gender neutral, yes, right, equality, yes. In terms of equality, increasing equality between two genders, yes. Not gender biased, yes. You know how it can be gender biased, okay? Sometimes, for example, you can show, like it used to be in the article published in May with Hassan Etouzi, we talk about this issue of gender. In which, for example, in some textbooks, you can see that some females in the rural areas, just in the kitchen. Okay? But then, if you look at doctors, you can see females, but you can see like foreign or broken pictures. Okay? Some kind of thing like this. Okay? Yes?
Sometimes part of that,
Yes.
besides gender bias, sometimes it should not be cultural bias.
Yeah, for sure.
I remember,
They're related.
I remember one Moroccan textbook said, very important. The first page, the first unit of hello, I mean there are like 4 pictures. There's hello, I'm Ryan from USA, and Sam from England, and then you have somebody who's very poor child. Morocco. And he says I'm from where? He says Morocco.
Yeah, that's what
It's culture. It's kind of diminishing your own culture.
Yes, that's what the article talks about. Yes, so yeah, can we add that? Cost criteria, yes. Cost criteria. Yes, it should be affordable, local community. Also in terms of ethnicity, Amazigh, for example, one of the issues that also we talk about in that article, the issue that Amazigh culture and language is not very much represented in English textbooks. It's almost absent. It's like 0.01 existing. That's the percentage. That's especially in this area, which is locally, of course, generally Amazigh area. The issue of it's dominant. It's striking. It's striking to have it. Yeah. So those are some of the criteria. Okay. Okay, that's fine. Learning materials, again, just to continue with the idea of evaluation of materials and checklists and criteria. Examine this extract from a checklist of evaluation criteria. As I told you, there are a number of criteria for checklists for evaluating materials. So just to have an idea again, further idea about checklists and criteria, can you have a look at this, please? And this checklist is taken from the most famous checklist by this guy, Kennisworth, 1984. The most used kind of checklist. Just go through it, okay? Just go through it. Don't answer this question. Just go through it and see what's a kind of criteria it talks about. Yes, please. Amen. So someone can just read, okay, just to know what we have there. Yes. Yes. Okay.
Examine this extract from checklist of evaluation criteria. Presentation and practice of grammar items.
So here you can see that this kind of, I will be stopping you now. It focuses on evaluating grammar, okay? Grammar items, okay, yes?
Mantle the presentation of new structures, grammar items. How are new structures presented? To what extent is the presentation?
Okay, so here you have commenting, okay, and then try to answer the questions we have here. Okay, so to what extent is the presentation, of course, yeah?
Is the presentation related to what has been previously learned?
Yes, this is a criterion that needs to be taken into account in evaluating ELT learning materials.
Is the presentation meaningful in context? Is it systematic? Is it representative of underlying grammar rule? Is it appropriate to the given context? Is it relevant to learners' needs and interests? Comment on practice activities for new structures. Are they adequate in number, varied, meaningful, appropriate to the given context, relevant to learners' needs and interests, sufficiently controlled?
So you see here the criteria, okay? So I think they are here. So they are just sample, okay? But you can have other criteria as we're going to see now again after this slide. So the evaluation or the checklist or the criteria for evaluating ELT or learning materials in general, they can be repartitioned or classified into 3 categories according to the stages of evaluation. According to the stages of evaluation. You can have some checklists and criteria related to the first stage, materials as work plan, the materials as work plan alone. You can have checklists or criteria relevant to the second stage, which goes after, which is the materials in process, and here we're talking about teaching them in the classroom setting, the teaching practices, the teaching, etc. And also we can have some checklists or criteria relevant to the outcomes from materials, okay? The goals, the outcomes. You can have some checklists that take into account this stage, the outcome, the products, okay? So this is just the 3 phases of materials evaluation after BREEAM 1989. So just to continue again with other types of checklists and criteria, you have here some more, and these are also taken from the most famous Kennisworth checklist, and here it focuses, as you can see, on motivation and learner. So you can see that it focuses on motivation and learner. Does the material have variety and pace? Is the subject matter of reading text, listening passages likely to be of genuine interest to the learners, taking into account their age, social background, and cultural background, their learning objectives, and in the composition of the class? Does the material have an attractive appearance, visuals, colors, etc.? Do the activities in the material encourage the personal involvement of the learners, personal involvement of the learners in the learning process? If material is culture specific, will this be acceptable to the learners? Coming back to the issue of ethical and cultural sensitivity, etc. Respect. Is there a competitive or problem-solving element in learning activities, problem-solving activities, okay, to increase thinking? So these are some other criteria and that can be included in checklists for evaluating ELT materials, okay? As I told you before, we can have, when we do ELT evaluation of classroom learning materials, we don't really need just to focus on the teacher because he's not the only one in there, okay? So we should take into account we should try to gather information from the different actors in the scene. I'm trying to use some metaphors and literary style here. So the different actors in the scene, and these are as follows: the learner, the parent, the teacher, the head of the college principal, the teacher trainer, curriculum committee member, the inspector, educational researcher, publisher, materials designer. So all this, we should try to gather information from all this. We should tailor out, we should try to prepare some kinds of questionnaires, checklists, and try to give them to these actors and try to elicit information from them for the purpose of course, evaluating learning materials. Okay. Here's an example of kinds of questions that can be used with all these actors. So we can have, this is an example. For example, you can ask them, what do you find are the most useful ways to learn a new language? What are the best kinds of language learning tasks and activities? I move on to, what are the best kinds of language learning materials? What do they look like? What do you think they are best? What is good and not good about the materials you are working with now? What changes would you like to make about them? And so on and so forth. So this is an example of questionnaire, or you can have a checklist or whatever, to give to all those actors and try to elicit information from them. Why? Because of this. I include the reason here. The evaluation of language learning program or the materials used to teach it involve more viewpoints than that of the independent outside observer. The outside evaluator, observer, expert who is coming to, is not doing no, that's no, okay? You should target those in order to, okay? Because, okay. Now, let me move on. Other areas for this, I have to move quickly now because I have to stop recording. We have already talked about this, I'm not going into details. For the classroom observation for the teachers, if you want to evaluate the curriculum and if you want to evaluate the teachers for self-development, etc., you should do what? For purposes of classroom observation. You have observation tasks and to elicit information from that, and then, okay, I'm not going to refer you to the pages 35, 36, because in there you have an example of an observation instrument that is taken from Cambridge examinations for teacher training programs. You compare that with the one that I gave you or any other ones that you are familiar with and see what kinds of things they focus on, okay, for providing observation. Teacher development, also improving techniques, monitoring their purposes. This is the purpose of observation as well. If you do observation, if you elicit information via observation and teachers' reports, you help the teachers improve techniques, monitor their progress, counseling them on relevant aspects of their teaching. So here all types of categories you can rely on in your observation. Another way for doing this is through what we call teacher self-development. And teacher self-development can be done via micro-teaching, okay? A more participant-oriented evaluation through observation, self-evaluation, peer evaluation, you know these things. I don't need to explain them, okay? Self-evaluation is clear. Peer evaluation, collaborative group work. And then you have pages 39 and 40 that talk about the details of how to do that for, helping teacher self-evaluation. And the last category, the last headline is related to assessment, as I told you, and you're going to see that with Fatihi in relation to testing, okay? So let me stop recording because my PC is getting full.